The studio lights gleamed over the polished set of The Tonight Show, the audience buzzing with anticipation. Jimmy Fallon stood center stage with his usual upbeat charm, grinning ear to ear as the band played Mark Wahlberg onto the set. Mark appeared with his classic swagger, dressed in a sleek black suit, his jaw tight but his smile camera ready. He shook Jimmy's hand with a firm grip, then turned to wave at the audience as applause echoed through the room. They started off easy, light banter about Wahlberg's new action thriller, some self-deprecating jokes about grueling workout routines, and a playful nod to Boston slang. Mark laughed politely, but if you looked closely, there was a flicker of something else behind his eyes. He kept glancing toward the cue cards held just off stage, clearly bracing for what he knew was coming. The talk show rhythm was predictable, and Mark had done this enough times to know when a segment was about to turn. Then Jimmy, with a mischievous glint, said, "So, Mark, we dug up this little gem from way back in the day. Hope you don't mind." The screen behind them lit up with grainy footage of a young, shirtless Mark performing with the Funky Bunch, his muscles flexing in slow motion as 90s synth-pop blared. The crowd erupted in laughter and cheers. Jimmy doubled over with a big grin. "Man, you were really feeling yourself." Mark let out a stiff chuckle. Yeah, that was a lifetime ago," he said, barely glancing at the screen. "We all got skeletons, right?" He shifted in his chair. The smile was still there, but it didn't reach his eyes. He ran a hand over his face, then said with a low voice, "Let's not do the nostalgia thing tonight, huh?" Jimmy tried to ride the moment, still chuckling. "Come on, that's classic stuff. America loves the retro vibes." Mark's tone cooled just slightly. "Yeah, I know. But sometimes the past don't need to be the punchline, you know." The air in the room changed. The audience's laughter faded, replaced by a nervous quiet. Jimmy sensed the shift but still hadn't grasped how close the line was getting. Mark folded his arms. He was still playing along, for now, but the warmth had left his expression. All the years of growth, the weight of trying to outlive a teenage reputation, the documentaries, the family commitments, the soul-searching, it was clear none of it mattered in this moment. To the world watching, he was still the punchline. And Mark Wahlberg didn't like being laughed at unless he was in control of the joke. The segment had barely recovered from the awkward pause when Jimmy, trying to regain momentum, forced a laugh and said, all right, no more Funky Bunch. Let's do something fun. We've got a little surprise for you." He motioned offstage as a neon graphic flashed on the screen behind them, the roast of Marky Mark. A few stand-up comedians, familiar faces from the New York scene, strolled out with mics in hand, clearly prepped for this. The crowd clapped, sensing something exciting. Mark raised an eyebrow, his body now angled away from Jimmy, posture stiff. The first comedian stepped forward, delivering a few light jabs about Wahlberg's movie roles. "Mark's so serious in all his films, even his eyebrows deserve an Oscar for dramatic tension." The crowd laughed. Mark gave a tight smile, nodding slowly. Then another comic went a little harder. Man went from Calvin Klein underwear to Catholic guilt like it was a career move. "Respect the hustle." That one drew some ooze and a smirk from Jimmy. But then came the moment that cracked the surface. A third comedian, a rising name known for pushing boundaries, took the mic and dropped the line. "Mark Wahlberg once beat a man half to death, and now he sells burgers and forgiveness. That's Hollywood for you." The audience reaction was split, some nervous laughter, some stunned silence. Jimmy's smile froze. Mark didn't laugh. His face went blank. The temperature on set plummeted. "You think that's funny?" Mark said quietly, his voice sharp and cutting through the tension like glass. The comedian hesitated, then shrugged with a nervous grin. "Hey man, just a joke." Mark leaned forward in his seat, eyes locked on Jimmy now. "Is this what we're doing? This is entertainment to you? Bring up the worst moments of a man's life, the part he spent decades trying to make right, and you package it as comedy." Jimmy raised his hands, trying to defuse the situation. "Mark, it's all love, man. Just having a little fun, roast style. You know how it goes." But Wahlberg wasn't having it. "Yeah, I know how it goes. I also know when a man's being disrespected on his own time." He stood up, slowly, with the deliberate energy of someone who wasn't acting. The suit jacket tightened over his shoulders as he looked around the room, the audience, the band, the comedians. "I came here to promote a film, not get blindsided by cheap shots. Jimmy tried to laugh it off, his voice shaking slightly. Come on, don't go, man. Let's just finish the interview. But Mark was already walking. No thanks, he said flatly. He paused near the curtain, turned just slightly, and added, you should know better. Then he disappeared backstage, leaving the set in stunned silence. The audience didn't clap. No one knew if they should. The band didn't play. Jimmy sat frozen, mouth slightly open, hands clasped. And somewhere in the control room, a producer shouted, cut to commercial. Now. Backstage erupted into chaos the moment Mark disappeared behind the curtain. Stagehands stood frozen in place, unsure whether to move or intervene. Jimmy's assistant whispered frantically into a headset, trying to reach the producers upstairs. One of the camera operators instinctively swung away from the stage to avoid capturing the awkward stillness, while the show's director barked orders into the comms. Go to break, now. On stage, the house lights dimmed just as the iconic theme music faded out mid-note. Jimmy was still sitting in his chair, blinking as if trying to process what had just happened. He turned toward the audience with a tight smile, forced and pale. We'll be right back, folks, he said, barely managing to keep his voice steady. The screen cut to commercials, but backstage the drama only escalated. Mark Wahlberg stormed down the hallway, unbuttoning his jacket, his jaw clenched tight. His longtime publicist, a calm middle-aged woman with years of Hollywood damage control under her belt, hurried after him. Mark, just stop for a second, she said, reaching out. He turned on her, eyes blazing. You knew they were going to do that. I swear to you, I didn't. They said it was going to be light, fun, no deep cuts. Yeah, well, someone fed them that line about my past. That wasn't just a joke. That was a hit. She nodded, backing off slightly. I'll handle it. Just take a breath, okay? Go back to the car. I'll clean this up. Mark didn't respond. He kept walking, past rows of dressing rooms and through the security doors leading to the back lot. A black SUV was already waiting with the engine running. Inside the studio, crew members whispered nervously, glancing between monitors. Jimmy sat in his dressing room during the break, eyes staring at the floor, his hands steepled under his chin. A producer entered quietly. We can do a statement. Spin it. Say it was a misunderstanding, maybe even stage a follow-up. Jimmy looked up sharply. I'm not sure we can spin this. That wasn't a skit. That was real. Meanwhile, social media was exploding. Within 10 minutes, #Wahlberg Walkout was trending on X. Clips of the moment, cut from phone recordings by audience members, circulated faster than NBC could issue takedown requests. Half the internet lit up with shock and speculation. Some called Mark a diva. Others praised him for standing up for himself. Memes surfaced instantly, a still image of Mark mid-stride, edited into everything from a burning stage to the Last Supper. But beneath the digital noise, a deeper conversation had already begun, about comedy, boundaries, and whether late-night television had lost its sense of respect in pursuit of viral moments. Jimmy scrolled silently through his phone in the green room. His usual goofy grin was gone. The fallout was. The next morning, as the media storm reached a fever pitch, Mark Wahlberg took a different route than expected. No publicist-crafted press release. No carefully worded tweet. Instead, just after 9 a.m. Eastern Time, his face appeared on Instagram Live, the screen unfiltered and raw. He sat in a modest kitchen, sunlight pouring through the window behind him, wearing a plain black hoodie. No lights, no makeup, no team in sight, just Mark, looking dead into the camera, his face calm but unreadable. Morning, everybody, he began, his voice low and even. I know things blew up last night. I've seen the clips, I've seen the comments, and I've had time to cool off a bit. He paused, rubbing his hands together. So I figured I'd speak to you directly. No handlers. No edits. Over 100,000 people tuned in live within minutes, and the numbers kept climbing. Mark kept going, steady and composed. I've done a lot of interviews in my life. I've sat on those couches since the 90s. I've laughed at myself. I've taken shots. I've played the game. But what happened last night wasn't comedy. It was cheap. And it was personal. His tone tightened slightly, the fire still beneath the surface. I get it. I've made mistakes. Big ones. I've never hidden that. But I've spent most of my adult life trying to be better, trying to be a man my kids can respect, trying to make peace with who I was. That's not an act. That's work. And when you make that part of someone's life a joke, when you twist it up and throw it at them on live TV, you're not roasting them. You're disrespecting them. He leaned forward a bit, his face filling the screen. I didn't walk off that stage because I can't take a joke. I walked off because I won't let my past be reduced to a punchline by people who never lived it. That ain't strength. That's boundaries. The comment section exploded with blue hearts and fire emojis. Thousands were voicing support, respect. You did the right thing. This is how men handle things. But Mark didn't acknowledge the scrolling feed. His eyes stayed locked on the lens. I've got no beef with Jimmy, he continued. We've laughed together before. I think he just missed the mark this time. I hope he sees that. I'm not asking for an apology. I just hope people start thinking a little harder about what they call entertainment. He looked down for a moment, visibly considering whether to say more. Then he glanced back up. I'll keep making movies. I'll keep working. I'll keep being a better version of who I was. But I won't play along when the cost is my dignity. That's not negotiable. With that, he gave a small nod and ended the stream. The screen went black. Hours later, Jimmy Fallon addressed the situation from his own platform. Seated behind his desk on a low-lit video post, his tone was far from comedic. Last night, things went off the rails. I tried to push the envelope, and I crossed a line. I never meant to hurt Mark or dredge up things he's worked so hard to move beyond. That's on me. He paused, looking sincerely into the camera. Mark, if you see this, I respect you. I've always respected your journey. You had every right to walk off, and I'm sorry. The clip was shared widely, and it quieted some of the noise. But the incident sparked broader conversations across podcasts, talk shows, and op-eds. Was comedy evolving? Had late night gone too far? And more importantly, where do we draw the line between accountability and cruelty in the name of a laugh? One thing was clear. What happened on Fallon's stage wasn't just another viral moment. It had become a cultural reckoning. And Mark Wahlberg, by walking off, had said more than words ever could.